Tonight, we follow the money behind the AI boom, euros. Not the chatbots, the machines that print the chips. On July 15, 2026, Reuters reported that ASML, the world's dominant supplier of chip-making lithography tools, raised its 2026 sales forecast again and pledged a major capacity expansion. The reason, in plain English, demand for equipment used to build advanced AI chips is extremely strong. That single sentence from a toolmaker moved more real capital than a dozen model demos on social media. If you only watch model launches, you miss half the story. Models need silicon. Silicon needs printers. Printers need factories, precision optics, clean rooms, orders, and years of planning. That is why ASML moves markets when it speaks euro. It sits at a choke point almost no one else can replace at volume. Think of the AI stack as 3 layers. Layer 1 is models and apps are euro, loud, viral, easy to demo. Layer 2 is cloud and data centers are Europower, racks, networking. Layer 3 is the physical machines that print the chips those racks run on. Tonight we stay on Layer 3, because Layer 3 decides how fast Layer 1 can grow. In this video we will cover what ASML actually said, the revenue and capacity numbers that matter, why one Dutch equipment company sits in the middle of the AI race, what capacity expansion really means for bottlenecks, who wins and who stays constrained, and what you should do as a builder or buyer of AI tools, even if you never buy a scanner. Here are the numbers to remember are euros, and always recheck primary filings and the Reuters write-up before you quote them. Because markets move and companies refine language. ASML said it now expects full year 2026 net revenue of about 43 to 45 billion euros. That is a clear lift from its earlier guidance range that sat around 36 to 40 billion euros. Analysts described the print as a blowout across the board. When a company that expensive raises guidance by several billion euros, it is not a vibe euro, it is order books and customer urgency. The company also said it intends to expand capacity by roughly 30% in each of the next 2 years euros, 2027 and 2028 euros, for flagship extreme ultraviolet tools and related lines. CEO Christophe Fouquet described customer demand for chip printing tools needed for advanced AI chips as extremely strong. Capacity language matters more than applause lines. It means the company is betting demand stays hot long enough to justify steel, people, and supply chain. Second quarter net sales were reported around 9.3 billion euros, beating expectations. Memory revenue was highlighted as a growth engine as well euros, not only logic chips for accelerators, but the memory that sits next to them in AI servers. The message is not subtle. The AI build-out is still ordering the physical layer. Software headlines may dominate your feed. The capital expenditure is still flowing into machines. Why does one Dutch equipment company matter so much to global AI? ASML is effectively the only volume supplier of extreme ultraviolet lithography systems, required to print the most advanced logic and memory chips that power modern AI accelerators. When TSMC, Samsung, SK Hynix, Micron, and their peers race to add capacity for AI-related demand, they often stand in a line that includes ASML, tools that can cost hundreds of millions of dollars per high-end system. You do not casually switch vendors the way you switch a software subscription. That concentration creates both pricing power and systemic risk. If orders surge, ASML raises guidance, expands plants, and hires. If geopolitics or export controls tighten, the entire AI hardware stack feels it euro, including regions that train models and regions that only consume APIs. So when headlines say AI demand is hot, One concrete translation is, the chip printers are booked. There is also a timing mismatch most consumers never see. A model can be fine-tuned in weeks. A new high-end scanner line takes years of industrial planning. That is why toolmaker guidance is a leading indicator for how much R-Euros Unlimited AI Euro the world can actually serve over the next 2 to 3 years. Markets listen. Policymakers listen. You should too, if your product roadmap assumes cheap, infinite tokens. Capacity expansion is the quiet part of the story. Raising a forecast is words on a slide. Adding roughly 30% capacity 2 years in a row is steel. Clean rooms, skilled people, optics supply, and logistics that must actually work. Faster expansion can soothe fears that a production bottleneck in lithography tools will throttle the AI boom. But expansion is not instant. Tools must be built, shipped, installed, calibrated, and staffed. Lead times still matter. Power for fabs still matters. Advanced packaging and high-bandwidth memory still matter. Water, permits, and local politics around megafabs still matter. So treat capacity guidance as a signal of demand intensity, not a guarantee that every model trainer will get unlimited GPUs next quarter. The bottleneck simply moves along the chain, from printers to wafers to high-bandwidth memory to networking silicon to data center power and cooling. Each relief valve opens a new choke point downstream. If you run a team budget, the practical translation is this: compute scarcity may ease in waves, then return in a different costume. Design products and prompts that survive rate limits. Prefer right-sized models. Never build a business plan that collapses when one cloud region throttles. Capacity news is optimistic euros and still industrial, not magic. Who wins and who stays constrained when ASML raises the ceiling? On the winner side of this climate, suppliers of lithography and process tools, memory makers riding AI, server bills of materials, foundries with leading nodes and packaging capacity, and cloud providers who can secure chips and sell tokens at scale. Markets often reprice those names when ASML speaks because tool orders are a proxy for how hard the industry is still pressing the accelerator. Under pressure, anyone whose growth story assumed free, infinite compute, software vendors competing with infrastructure for the same corporate budget, startups that burn tokens without unit economics, agencies that sell Euro-limited AI. Content are ye without measuring cost per successful outcome. Regions that cannot permit power for new data centers fast enough euros, because chips without electricity are museum pieces. This is the same budget war logic we covered in the IBM software warning, weak euros. Only now the camera is on the machines that make the chips, not the software seats that got delayed. Atoms and apps still fight for the same pie. When atoms get louder orders, apps must prove ROI faster. That is not anti-software. It is pro-discipline. If your tool cannot show minutes saved or revenue moved, it waits in the queue behind racks, power, and security. What should you do with this if you are not buying a $400 million scanner? First, plan model usage like a capacity-aware engineer. Default to smaller, faster models for drafts and classification. Escalate to frontier models only when quality clearly requires it. Batch jobs. Cache repeated work. Measure cost per successful outcome, not cost per vanity token. AI Workflow Lab exists for exactly this kind of practical loop euros, not for worshipping the biggest model. Second, if you build products, design for graceful degradation when rate limits bite. Multi-provider routing is not paranoia euro, it is supply chain hygiene. Queue non-urgent jobs. Offer offline or delayed modes. Tell users honestly when quality will be lower on a cheaper path. Third, Watch leading indicators outside Twitter. Toolmaker guidance. Memory pricing. Advanced packaging timelines. Data center interconnect capacity and national energy policy. Model demos are loud. Capacity is destiny. A quiet sentence from a lithography CEO can forecast your API. Bill next year better than a launch video. Fourth, keep a simple weekly scoreboard. Tasks automated, minutes saved, dollars of API spend, error rates after human review. When budgets tighten €, and they always cycle €, that scoreboard is your defense. Boards fund what they can measure. Vibes do not renew contracts. 3 signals to watch after the ASML print. 1. Does capacity expansion actually arrive on schedule, or do lead times stretch again as demand stays extreme? 2. Do memory and foundry margins confirm that AI server demand is still broadening beyond a few hyperscalers? 3. Do software and cloud prices reflect scarcity €, higher rates, tighter limits, stricter quotas €, even while model quality keeps rising? Those 3 tell you whether the boom is still industrial reality or becoming marketing theater. Source discipline matters. Start with Reuters' coverage of the July 15, 2026 report, then company guidance and filings. Numbers move. Language gets refined. Verify before you quote on a slide or in a client meeting. We show sources on screen for a reason €, so you can check us. The takeaway is simple. The AI boom is not only software. It is machines, orders, factories, power, and multi-year capital plans. Models sit on silicon. Silicon sits on printers. Printers sit on companies like ASML. If this breakdown helped, subscribe to AI Workflow Lab, our Euro. Practical tools, prompts, and workflows you can copy. No hype, just steps. Comment below. Are you budgeting for model quality or for capacity reality? See you in the next one.